As you can see, I got my dually back from the shop. I got back right before New Year's. Did a 6-hour round trip with it. It ran perfectly fine. I need to replace the brakes on it because apparently I have no pads, and as you can see, there's some metal flake from metal on the router and the brake pads. Then it was nice. It was like in the 60s here in Ohio, and then we had a bunch of rain. Ran perfectly fine during that time, and then we had a cold snap that night, and it got down into the 20s and the like, and it wouldn't. I came out, I was like, oh, I'm going to do a cold start on this thing. It'd be kind of cool, because it's been a while since I've done one of those, and lo and behold, turned the key and I got nothing. So I tested the starter by unplugging it up top here. So there is this joint here that you can unplug and then put it on your positive terminal here. And if you leave the key turned off and you turn and do that, and if your starter turns over and fires perfectly fine, then it's not a starter problem. Well, mine just kind of clunked, and that was about it. So I knew it was a starter and having the problem, and I've had starter issues before with this thing, before I had the head gaskets and new heads put on it and everything. So I guess the starter finally just decided to go poopy on me, for lack of better words, and to keep it, family friendly video. So I got a brand new starter. Also, while I'm at it, I got a new cord for my block heater because, well, I had it plugged in thinking that it would help to thaw some of this, and it shorted out on me and created other issues. So I'm replacing these two things today. I have the starter out already. I have the old plug undone and unrouted, so it was right above the starter here, and it came down, went over this bracket for the cradle for the engine, and then it comes out here, and then it goes around, goes up to the front between the bumper and the frame, and then out the bumper. So I'm going to try and route this thing a different way, probably, because I don't think I can route it back the same way that I did. The starter is really easy to remove. It's 3 bolts, and then the 3 bolts, 1, 2, and 3, and then you just have the 2 wires for the solenoid on the starter. Real easy stuff. The biggest pain in the butt, as most people say, when I can't reach it where you can see it and I can keep my hand, it's this top one. Oh, it's the top bolt that you can kind of see. I'm going to stick my finger and kind of point to it. This one here. Because you have to get back to it, and this thing sits like this, and so it's this bolt here. It's a pain in the ass. Now it's not too family friendly because I just said ass, but that's okay. So it should have taken me like 8 minutes to do this or less. It took me like quite a bit longer because trying to get the 13 millimeter up on that bolt and then trying to break it free, and you can't go from underneath unless you have someone up top holding it, and so yeah. And this is the third time I've replaced the starter. The first time I replaced it, it went out, I replaced it, I got a starter, and then the next day it went start again. I came out and looked at the starter, and lo and behold, the starter basically broke itself apart. I don't know what they did to that starter. I don't know whether they didn't torque things properly or what. So I had to take it out and then replace it. So that's why I say this is my third starter. But because of this thing getting so hot from the heads and that, I believe that's the problem. And whenever I took it out, you could pull on you could kind of jiggle it, and you could hear this part of it would sit there and rattle on the old one. And of course that one's nice and tight, so I'm hoping that's my problem. And of course I'm doing this on an Ohio day that's like, I don't know, 20 degrees. Yesterday was like in the teens. The day before that it was single digits, so but all I got's a sweatshirt on and a thermal underneath of it, so it's not too horrible. But There's some other things I want to do with this. I did end up having to have the alternator replaced with the last issue I had. It was a power loss issue, and that was all because of a hose, a single hose. It had a hole underneath the hose clamp. You couldn't see it, so whenever it would just suck air and then cause a vacuum leak, and you get no power and that. So, but I want to replace my intercooler tubes. So I had Sinister diesel ones, and I kept blowing them off, especially this one, but it could have been the pressures that I was creating with the head issues. And then I also had the other one for over here, but the boots weren't big enough because I have the S&B filter elbow on it. So I'm looking at some other ones. I might just go black with it, and then eventually I want to replace the reservoir with a nice metal powder coated reservoir. I have replaced that one because it developed a leak. I have the Mishimoto radiator hoses, S&B air filter. I'd like to replace this because the previous owner liked to tighten these down too tight. So I'd like to have, see if I can have a new cover cut for it and then have something else engraved on it. Maybe like a white acrylic or something, or gray, I don't know, blue, who knows. And then down here, the infamous Y that likes to blow apart, I've had that replaced. Mishimoto now has a replacement for it. So I'm thinking about replacing it with a Mishimoto one that I know isn't going to cause me issues, because this is where it likes to blow apart. So, and of course, you know, once I, like most of my vehicles, once I get this thing actually running right, I'd like to do some things that are just fun to do. I do need to rewire the stereo in it, because that was my gremlin for my batteries being drained all the time, and probably my alternator also. So yeah, this is today's project. I know it's been a while since I've posted anything, and it's been a while since I've worked on anything, and I haven't gotten back to the S10, but so this is basically my daily until I get the S10 fixed. I still have my dad's 2500. I'd like to get that back to him before he comes back from Florida. So yeah, so hopefully new starter, and then everything will be good to go when it starts up, and maybe I can do a cold start video. We'll see. All right, back to work. All right, so I'm just gonna throw this in here. See this here new starter, nice and shiny, sitting back in there. So I got the bottom two bolts on, and the top bolt, like I said, is a pain in the ass bolt that's sitting up right there. So I'm gonna cheat with this because I don't want to drop my bolt down in there and lose it. And it's has the flat washer top on it, so you can't really set it back into a socket. So I'm gonna cheat. I have some painter's tape, and all I did was take a pair of scissors or whatever you happen to have, and I cut the tape. I slid my bolt into there, taped it into my socket. Now this tape isn't very sticky, and it's not very strong. I tried this with electrical tape, and that was just a pain in the tuchus. So this stuff, you know, it's painter's tape, so it's not very sticky. It comes off real easy. So once I get this started, I should be able to just pull this straight off. It rips this away, and then I can take the tape off, and then I can finish putting it on. So whenever you get into places like this, it always helps to have some painter's tape laying around, or masking tape. Easy stuff to rip apart, and helps you out whenever you have bolts that you don't want to drop and lose, and you can't get your hands in there to really start it. So just a tip. replacing that starter. So I'm gonna get stuff cleaned up, and I think I'm gonna go in and get warmed up, and I might let this run a little while. It is true that these are a little bit shorter, but it would still come out here. I routed it about the same way, but I'll be thankful to have this on those cold mornings. So a little bit of ice. So there we go. F-350 is back on the road. Got her high idle going to warm it up. I'll let it run for a little while since it sat, and I did a couple of trying to start it, turn the key on it, probably just give it a little bit, make sure everything's A-okay. I just checked the starter. Nothing crazy going on with it. So I think we're good to go. Another project in the books. Happy 2022, everyone.